years ago. Because what you become starts taking shape very early. When you make deliberate effort to prepare for tomorrow, you are likely to come out better than someone who has not done the same. Now there's a very famous man who has now died. His name is Stephen R. Covey. He's very famous because he was considered a guru of personal effectiveness. How do you become more effective as a person? Covey was a guru of personal effectiveness. One of my own great achievements in life, I like to think, is that I shared the podium with Covey twice before he died. Stephen R. Covey wrote a famous book titled The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you want to go far in life, as early as you can manage to read a book like that, it will shape you. It was an honor of an extraordinary nature for me to share a podium with Covey, because most of what affected my trajectory in life came from reading Stephen Covey when I was very young. Now, I don't know what habits you have these days in school, but when we were here in Loyola, the biggest competition was over books. How many books have you read? We used to brag with it, compete with one another. We started with James Hadley Chase novels in those days. You still read James Hadley Chase novels? Are those still around? Yeah. The Kata, all of those. We had a competition who had read more James Hadley Chase novels, who had read more Agatha Christie, the Katas, all of those we used to read voraciously. And I tell you one big secret of life. They say that readers are leaders. Because you cannot lead if you do not know. And knowing is reading. So, that habit that I picked up here in that competition, it made a big difference in my life. Maybe I should begin by telling you a small story of something that happened to me as an undergraduate in Nigeria. That was the early days of shaping who I will be. Before I come to Stephen Covey and his famous dictum, which is begin with the end in mind. If you're going to do anything in life, imagine the end and live from today to be able to get to that end. Begin with the end in mind. I'll come to that. But let me just tell a little story from what the power of reading can do to you. From age 14, I read Time magazine and Newsweek magazine cover to cover every week. In fact, the amazing thing is that today I can still quote stories in Newsweek magazine from 1972. I just remember it. The other day there was an air crash, and I remember one famous collision on the ground in 1974. Two Boeing 747s collided in the runway in Tanarive, in Africa here. KLM, Boeing 747, and American Boeing 747, all full of people. Many people died in that crash. One was trying to take off. It was misty, and the runway had cleared both, not knowing. The one was crossing the town and the one was coming. By the time he saw the other aircraft, tried to lift the aircraft to just hit it, and a terrible crash. When the reports got to Amsterdam that this crash had taken place, managing director of KLM was started to be very agitated, gets into his office, he's working, and he says to the secretary, "Get me Captain Valduzian." Captain Valduzian was the chief pilot of KLM. I checked the looked at him and said, "Sir, Captain Babuzen was the commander of that flight. And I died in that crash." Captain Babuzen, chief pilot, was not supposed to go on a trip. And something happened to the captain that was supposed to take that flight. And Babuzen said, "Let's go. Just run, take the flight, and come back." And that accident happened. The first person the chief executive thought of to go and find out what happened was the man who actually was flying that aeroplane. So I never forgot that story. You can imagine remembering a magazine story from 1974 with that kind of clarity. But that's part of what the habits of reading left, the impression he left on me. Today, I can run into somebody and the next day not recognize the person, but I can still quote a full page from Stone and Cousin, which was read here in 1969, 68. Now that can be one effect. But what is important is that when I was at the University of Nigeria, at Nsukka, I was 18, 19-year-old student leader. And our country, Nigeria, was involved in a major struggle on the continent of Africa. That struggle was the liberation movement. And many of you wouldn't know much about it, but when we were very young, back in the 70s, the biggest and most important thing to us was the liberation of Africans who were still under colonial domination in Southern Africa. In Zimbabwe, as it is today, it was called Rhodesia in those days. In South Africa, it was called Azania. Big struggle. In Namibia, SWAPO was military movement. In Angola, in Mozambique. As undergraduates, we used to give up one meal every week so that the money from that meal will be sent to South Africa for the liberation struggle. That's how involved we were as a people in the struggle. So, as a student leader, I decided to invite the foreign minister of Nigeria to come and interact with us students on the struggle in Angola and Mozambique, and to debate us on the issues. Now, I'm sure most of you know how Nigerians teach young people. Even though it was much better then than it is today. A letter from this student union leader from UNN to the foreign minister. Of course, they ignored it. I chose not to be ignored. So, I got on the bus from Nsukka and went to the capital of Nigeria at the time, which was Lagos. I arrived in Lagos and went to the office of the foreign minister. It used to be, at that time, opposite where the central bank in Lagos is. There used to be a building there called Republic House. It was one of the tallest buildings in Lagos. But it was destroyed in one of those terrible fires that destroyed several buildings in Nigeria during the 80s and 90s. So I arrived at the Public House, managed to get my way to the office of the foreign minister. And I approached the secretary to the foreign minister. And I said, "Madam, we have written a letter to the foreign minister inviting him to come to Nsukka to come and debate us as students on Nigerian foreign policy. But we have not received a reply." She looked up at me and wondered, "Look at this small boy. He's not even afraid. He came here to ask us that we have not replied his letter." So I said to her, "Madam, it is really important that we get a response." He says, "Okay, let me teach you something about protocol and etiquette. When you go back to Nsukka, write to the dean of students, so that the dean of students can write to the vice chancellor. Then the vice chancellor can then request of," I say request of God, she stopped. and said, see, this boy is actually precocious. Yes, you can request of God to anybody who wants to request. Eventually, it will reach us. I said, Madam, by the time that letter reaches you, I would have graduated. He said, it's okay. You will continue from there. Your successors will follow up. I saw that I was not going to get anywhere with this woman. You know what I did? I got lessons you should learn in life. Persevere. Persevere. Don't take no like that when you're told no. So I thought, what was the best way for me to get hold of this foreign minister? So I went downstairs. Downstairs, I asked the concierge. In Nigeria, the typical people who have as concierge in government agencies are ex-servicemen. So I asked the concierge, I said, please, do you know when the foreign minister will arrive? And he said, oh, he should be here soon. His advance party has already arrived. Now, some of you may not have any idea of the kind of thing I was talking about. In Nigeria, under military rule back in those days, those men went around, the big men in the country, they were escorted by armored cars. And this man who was foreign minister had just announced a coup that removed the Nagowon from office. So you can imagine how he was being guarded. While he was still talking, the armored car or ferret, whatever it is called, that escorted him, moved fast and stopped. And then all the other Land Rovers and everything. And this man who was foreign minister was a colonel at the time called Joseph Nanben Garba. Joseph Nanben Garba was captain of Nigeria's basketball team. So as you can imagine, he was like 6 feet 8 inches tall. In those days when we were young, because he was 20 feet tall, Garba, you know. And this man steps out of the car. And there's little between me there. And I say, Colonel Garba, I disagree with your position on Angola. Who said that? I said, me. He said, who are you? He said, my name is Pat Utomi. I'm from the University of Nigeria. He said, so why do you disagree with my position on Angola? I'm telling you the story. I'm trying to tell you about the reading habits that we picked up here in Loyola College in those days. Because I read Time magazine cover to cover every week, I was probably more informed than the foreign minister on what was going on in the world. So I did go to debate with him. Oh, really? I don't agree with you. Okay, well, that makes sense. We're debating and talking. We entered the elevator, got up to his floor, got out of the elevator, and walked past that secretary that had just said to me. And she was looking like, where did this boy come from? But she could not say anything because I was talking with the foreign minister, and we walked past her and walked into his office. And as soon as we got into his office, he shouted at her, come. Go and get me Ambassador Brownson Dede. Ambassador Brownson Dede was the special advisor to the foreign minister. And she, yes sir, I should also call Ambassador Dede. Ambassador Dede comes in. I said, Brownson, I'm going to Suka to debate these boys. What do they mean? And I said, that's fine by me. That's security protection. Because of a habit of reading, I was able to stand as a 19-year-old, the foreign minister of the country, and debate with him issues of international and national policy. Having accepted my invitation, I was very, very proud. I returned to Suga and announced that he was coming. The date he was supposed to speak was February 18th, 1976. This was in 1975. We secured this date. Now, most people on campus did not believe that it was possible that I could get the foreign minister to agree to come. So they kind of like laughed, said, this man is deceiving himself again. Says foreign minister is coming. Oh, okay, we'll see. Then on the 13th of February 1976, about 4 days or so before the event. There was a coup attempt in Nigeria. Now, most of you don't have the experience of coups, so you may not relate properly to what I'm talking about. In those days in Nigeria, the way we change government was through coup d'etats. You hear an announcement on radio, everywhere will be closed, there will be no communication, they will cut off all communication, you can't call anybody on the phone, nothing. So there was radio silence across the country. They were looking for the coup orders. The coup failed, but the head of state, General Murtala Mohammed, was killed. And there was chaos in the country. And I was very worried because people were saying, this man will not come. Now the country was in an emergency. If he did not come, understandably, they would say, Francis, my friend, you was never going to come anyway. Feeling quite distraught, I took a car from Suka. I went to Lubu. I went to the governor's office to find out what was happening. The governor did not know anything. I went to the brigade commander's office, what was happening. The brigade commander at least pretended that he did not do anything. I didn't know what to do. So the brigade commander, finding that I was so unhappy, said to me, look, you invited the man. Why don't you just go to the airport? If he's going to come, you'll come to the airport. Just sit at the airport. If he's going to arrive, he will arrive there sometime. I thought, okay. So I went to the airport. And I was sitting at the airport. 1 hour after I got to the airport, I saw a jet with Nigerian police colors land. For the first time, I didn't know Nigerian police had jets. I saw Nigerian police jet. I was quite impressed. I was admiring the plane when it pulled up and the doors opened. Who came out as the doors opened? Colonel Joseph Garba's younger brother, who was his ADC. And I looked behind, and Colonel Garba arrived in Suka in the middle of a national crisis to honor the invitation that I gave him. This was because of the effect of that connectivity. Of course, the whole campus, the moment the radio announced in Enugu that the foreign minister had arrived on his way to Suka to go and give a lecture, there was commotion of the whole campus. Because nobody really believed that that was going to happen. Even the vice chancellor had to deny me in front of the foreign minister. And you know, these students, they don't tell us what they're doing. We didn't know you were coming. But once the radio announced that he had arrived in Enugu, they had to quickly arrange the chancellor's lodge for him. So this story is important to bring us to the starting point, which I said was beginning with the end in mind. If you want to do well at anything, take the end position and ask yourself, what do I need to do to arrive at this end? And begin to live your life in a way that can bring you to that end. I give an example of how Stephen Covey illustrates that. Covey says, imagine that you have gone to an event, a funeral event. Usually when people come to funeral events, there's a walk past the line in states. So imagine what all the people who are walking past the casket are thinking. Not what they are saying. You people always say nice things about people who have died. But they may not think nice things about them. I try to be polite. They imagine what they are thinking. Are they saying this man was really a good man? Or are they saying inside their heart, yeah man, thank God he has gone. Foolish man. He couldn't even do well by his family. Just imagine what they will be thinking. And when you get to that body, imagine that you are the one inside. Imagine what you would like people who are walking past the casket to think about you when you are gone. And then construct your life such that when you are lying there, people who are passing through will think those things and you desire for them to think of you. This is what is called beginning with the end in mind. So if you are going to begin with the end in mind, you should be asking yourself today, who would I like to be 30 years from now? How can I become that person that I would like to be 30 years from now? What kind of study should I be involved in if I'm going to be that person 30 years from now? What kind of character should I develop so that people will respect me enough to make it possible for me to be that person I dream that I will be 30 years from now? I think that when we bear that in mind, you will know a few things that will come to us. One of the things that will come to us is really, because it's not always possible to be everything. So you have to make some choices. Life is about the choices you make. For me, there are two principal kinds of choices you make. Do I want my life to make impact, or do I want my life to be maximally comfortable? Think about it. They're not mutually exclusive, but most lives that make impact are not usually the ones that have no care for what they do with money. They may live decently. But how do you think of a Wole Soyinka? And how do you think of an Aliko Dangote? It is not always that you can get Aliko Dangote to be Wole Soyinka or Wole Soyinka to be Aliko Dangote. Which is more important? Now maybe I'm taking extreme cases. But typically in life, you either have a life that makes impact, or you have a life that pursues self-love. Nothing wrong with taking good money and having a decent life. I'll give you a number of testimonies from my own life so you can make choices from what you learn. But in making the choices that you make, the key is that you have to start early in deciding what kind of life you want. Whether it's a life that everybody will talk about because everybody's life was usually touched. You know, in those days, you go to Nigerian small town, the life that has made the most impact is the village headmaster. He may not have a lot of money, but everybody remembers that their future was shaped by that village headmaster. As for the students, they become billionaires, but whenever they see him, remember the most important thing that happened to them. So what kind of life do you want to choose? Invariably, typically, there are a number of things that go with lives that are successful, whether they are lives that make impact or they be lives that achieve comfort. Character. Character is central to who you are. Now let me give you the motto of the school that is in Owerri. One school in Owerri called Government Secondary School Owerri. I was not aware of their motto until somebody I was very friendly with, who was chairman and chief executive of Nigerian Breweries back in those days, Mr. Felix Iwere, had his biography written. Mr. Iwere had attended Government Secondary School Owerri and was significantly affected by the motto of Government Secondary School Owerri. And that motto goes like this: work hard, play hard. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. When character is lost, all is lost. Now, I don't know if you have an understanding of what that motto is saying here. Now, I'll give you some illustrations to people who are famous that you may know. It says, when wealth is lost, nothing is lost. What does that mean? I have met many wealthy people who lost their wealth, went from being very wealthy to being very poor. And the next year, something fantastic happens and they are rich again. In America, you have what they call bankruptcy laws. That's to help people who used to be wealthy, who have lost it, to start again. Chapter 11, you file chapter 11 bankruptcy. There is a man who I used to use to illustrate this in one of my classes in the business school. That man was a billionaire. And then he went bankrupt. And there's a video of him coming out of the subway station, the underground station in New York. And he saw a homeless man sitting on the floor. And he looked at the man and he said, my goodness, that man is worth much more than me. At least he's worth zero. I am worth far less than zero. 3 years later, that man was a billionaire again. Today, that man is the president of the United States of America. Donald Trump. When I was using this video 20 years ago, I had no clue he would be president of the United States. But that's what he is today. But the point that is illustrated here is that wealth can come and go. It's not the most important thing in life. You can build it back again. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. It can be regained. When health is lost, something is lost. I give you that famous example. There's a gentleman called Steve Jobs who built an extraordinary company called Apple. Again, as a business teacher, I would use the Apple case several times when he was pushed out of Apple, and when he came back to reclaim Apple and transform Apple and all of that. And Steve Jobs, early in his life, was cut down by cancer. And there he was lying, one of the wealthiest men in the world, and nothing from all his money to save him from dying. And he made a few powerful statements about the value of wealth, the value of health. So when health is lost, something is lost. But when character is lost, chicken and everything is gone. When you're not a person whose word can be trusted, there's nothing to fight for. A person whose word cannot be held. Unfortunately for us, our society has traveled so far down. There are too many people who don't put anything on their word because the character has been malformed. You see, it is possible for you to have bad character and be covering it up. But the saying goes like this: say, character is like smoke; it will always out. If there's fire burning in this room, we will come out the windows. Eventually, we will slip through the door. Character is like smoke; you will always find its way out. One day, we will discover who you really are after all the games you have played, and that will be real of everything you are struggling to do over the years. If character is important, another thing that is very, very important is competence. Whatever you try to do, try your best to be one of the best at it. Competence. There are many people who are so competent that it doesn't matter how many games you play. Nepotism, ethnicity, eventually people know that they need them to get some things done and they will turn to them. So competence. And it's connected to the first thing we talked about reading. Courage. Not many people have the courage to do what is right. And that's why we are struggling. as people, courage is so important. It doesn't mean you should be foolish. You should not be sensitive enough to use your emotional intelligence to know whether this is the right time to do this or that. But you need courage to stand up for what is right. And that is what will take you very, very far. You need self-confidence. Assured that you can do that thing that is required. Because many people just don't have the self-confidence to proceed. All of this lead me to what is often referred to as self-mastery. The first place you want to be is somebody who knows himself. If you look in the mirror, most times when people look in the mirror, they don't see the truth. They see what they think. They don't see who they are. But when you begin to develop yourself and you get mentors who speak truth back to you, you get to know yourself more, then you discover your weaknesses and you work to get them down, you discover your strengths and you work to build them up, and you take some basic things. I'll give you a small example. I used to be very short-fused. It's amazing that as a much older person today, Paul Oshuke, who's sitting there, works with me. I didn't realize until something happened a few months ago that there was a debate amongst my colleagues who work with me. They were asking the drivers who drive me if I ever lose my temper. Because for many of them, in spite of the pressures of every day, they very seldom see me lose my temper. It just happened 2 times. Asking myself, what's important in life? What benefit in getting worked up on something and losing control of that moment? These are basic things that will make a difference in your life. So let me give a few, what we call them, testimonies from my experience to show that in life, really truly in life, your values determine everything. What do you place a premium on? Is it money? Is it respect for others? Is it recognition of the dignity of the human person? What are your values? What is important? What is dear to you? These are the things that will ultimately shape who you become, where you are going. And because of my many struggles, I still have many of them going. Bear in mind that, as I said, when I left Loyola College here, my desire was not to be a professor, because you don't always end up what you were dreaming of when you're in school. But if you know what generally you want to be, circumstance, God, all kinds of interventions will lead you to a particular direction. When leaving Loyola, back 1970, 71, 72, what was in vogue was being an airline pilot. Everyone wanted to be pilots. I wanted to be a pilot. One of my friends in Lagos, one of the neighborhood boys, finished his school set in December. He didn't wait for the result to come out. His mother had plenty of money. By February, he was already in America at an aviation training college in Florida. 10 months later, he was back as a commercial pilot. Fancy sports car. Everybody was admiring him. Now, how do you think everybody else around him will want to live their lives? All of us wanted to be pilots. Anyway, cut a long story short, my father persuaded me that, look, the best friends you make in life are the friends you make in university. So why don't you just go to university, make some friends, and then come out after a year or two and go to flying school like your friend Olumide. I said, okay, sounds fair. So I took the concessional entrance examination. And in 1973, I was enrolled at the University of Nigeria. Talk about values. Now, one value that I had was value of helping other people. It's always been a value that I cherish, doing something. In those days, immediately after the Civil War, the university had all kinds of books and journals being donated from everywhere. But they did not have enough money to get people to man the libraries. So the libraries were full, but they were not accessible to the students. So my head of department said, look, if you students can organize yourselves properly and take over the library, the Loyola library, you can have access and use the library. So I said, okay, that sounds good. But no students volunteered, so the library remained short. So one day I said to one of the students, you these foolish people, they are giving you access to the library, you can't even organize yourself to use the library. That's why they said, what about you? I said, me? Look, people came here to get a degree. I came here to just enjoy myself for 1 or 2 years and leave. You are the ones who want to run the library. To prove to them that volunteering is a good thing, I went to the head of department and volunteered to run the library. And the head of department was in shock because I was one of the least serious students in the department. Now, when one of the least serious students in the department comes to you and says, you're volunteering to run the library, what do you do? In a state of shock, he gave me the key. He didn't ask me what, just give me the key. Now, for the library to be available for the use of others, I had to be around. It was only when I was available that people would use the library. And a pure sense of responsibility overtook me. Just for the purpose of the ability of others to use the library, if I was not eating, if I was not sleeping, if I was not in the class, I was in the library so that others would use the library. Since I was in the library, I had to do something that began to read all these books in the library. What was the outcome? Instead of going to flying school, I went to graduate school. And at the age of 26, I had 2 master's degrees and a PhD. And so that led from one thing to another thing. Within literally hours, the same day that my PhD thesis was accepted in 1982, I got on a plane to return to Nigeria. And within a few weeks of my return to Nigeria, because of the things I was saying in newspapers, on TV, the Vice President of Nigeria said he wanted to meet me. I didn't know him from Adam. When he was saying it, somebody said, I can find him. So they asked that person to go and find him. They found him and brought him to meet the Vice President. I had written something on taxation and tax policy and why Nigeria was not being effective because Nigerians were not paying taxes and therefore could not hold government accountable. And I talked about issues of vertical equity and horizontal equity in taxation. So he said, Vice President said, if I can make that man. So they fetched me. And the VP at the time, Dr. Alex Ekweme, said to me, look, this is your grammar, horizontal, vertical equity, what is all this thing you're talking about? So I began to explain to him, he said, you know what, why don't you go and do for me a paper on that subject? Do me a paper on it. I thought it was time to be precocious. I said, Mr. Vice President, you see, I'm a consultant. If you pay me, I won't. I was just trying to be silly, just to make the point. And one of his friends who was sitting with him there, one Chibayo Kuku was chairman of what they call PACON, Friends of Alex Committee. Chibayo Kuku said, look, my friend, young man, Vice President says you do something. They're talking about being a consultant. Okay, when he finishes with you, come to my house and tell me how much that your consultancy is. So we laughed about it. So we left with Chief Kuku to his house on what is Bayo Kuku Street in Ikoyi. So when we got to his house, hey, Chief Bayo Kuku said to me, so how much is that your consultancy? I had no clue what to say to him. I had never thought about it. I was just trying to be funny. So I said, I was thinking, okay, what should I charge? Now the price of a small box certificate in those days was about 2,000 naira. Believe it or not, I don't think I can relate to that to the price levels of today. A car in those days cost 2,000 naira. Yes, that's what it cost. 1983. 2,000 naira. Post levels. I don't have to get your attention. 2,000 naira. Even the bigger car, the Passat, was 2,700 naira.
What did this?
So I said to Chief Bayo Kuku, I said, well, maybe 2,000 naira. Chief Bayo Kuku said, 2,000 naira. They are making all this noise. He said, okay, wait for me, I'm coming. He went to his bedroom, brought a money, a bunch from the central bank wrapper, 10,000 naira, 330. So my friend go and write over his business, he writes, if you need money again, come and meet me. Of course, there was a friend of mine who was the first volunteer to go and fetch me. He was with me. And that friend of mine, when we left, I said to him, oh, this thing, Vice President asked me to write, I'll finish it this night. He said, this night? No. If we bring it tomorrow, they will think it's easy. Keep it for 1 week before we bring it back, so that they will know it's not easy. And I said, I'll finish it this night. He said, yes, finish it, but let's keep it. So we kept it for 1 week. After 1 week, we submitted it to the Vice President. Vice President read it, was very excited, very pleased. Following Friday, he asked his special assistant at the time, called Mrs. Omobola Onochide, used to be in WNTV Badoria in the early 60s, Mrs. Onochide. Her husband was the clerk of the Western House in 1962. So Mrs. Onochide then summons me to go and see the Vice President on a Saturday evening. We go to the Vice President's office, house, sorry. The Vice President is telling me about what he learned from my write-up. Oh, very good. Oh, by the way, yesterday, President Shagari approved for you to replace Professor Utomi. Professor Utomi was a special advisor to the President. He was my lecturer.
Wow.
That is how it is in the record books that I am the youngest PhD advisor to the President of Nigeria. Now, I told you about generosity as a value. Generosity towards others. Now, many times people think that you are foolish when you are generous. And I give you a current experience. Day before yesterday, I was speaking to the current Minister of Trade and Investments in Nigeria, Dr. Oshichukwu Enelama. Now, that's not the story. Dr. Enelama knows me very well. In fact, when I was at Volkswagen, after the coup d'etat and government changed, and Shagari was pushed out, I was just sitting on my own when a company called Volkswagen of Nigeria came to me, said they were head hunting. In fact, let me tell you something. I don't like saying it a lot Because some people might not understand it, and I think it's actually haughtiness. I've actually never applied for a job in my life. Every job I have done applied for me. I've never applied for a job in my life. So they came to head mountain to take me to Volkswagen in Nigeria. I didn't want to go. Then the consultant, the late Chief Loyola College, then started teasing me. He said, look at you. There's a rumor that you are smart, but you are freelancing your way through life. You read my autobiography titled To Serve is to Live. The first chapter is titled Still Freelancing. Chief Loyola said to me, there is no big company experience in your CV. You need a big company experience. Why don't you come here? Even if it's 2 years, you stay there. It will be in your CV that you work for a big company. I said, yeah. That's how I was white-mailed into joining Dr. Utomi. I was blackmailed. I was white-mailed. So I went there again to spend 2 years or so. And when the German chief executive was leaving, and I said to him, well, you know, I probably won't stay long. Leave because I just see him here. He looked at me and said, hey. So it is really truly a rumor. I said, rumor that what? That you are very smart. I said, what does that mean? He said, has it not occurred to you you will be the first Nigerian to run this company? Less than a year later, I became deputy managing director of the company. First Nigerian. Now, so coming back to Dr. Lama's statement, Dr. Lama, before he became minister, was managing director of one of the major investment of companies in the country, a company called Capital Alliance, Capital Alliance of Nigeria. He has been in the middle of what is called private equity funding of several ventures. He presided over at least 2 or 3 ventures that I was associated with in creating. So he knew me very well. Now I'm involved in struggling very hard at the moment to do a greenfield project, a nature of which has never been done in this part of the world. And I'm really struggling for a variety of reasons. We've been traveling around the world, doing roadshows to attract investments, problems in Nigeria, problems with that. But we are pretty close, very, very close to closing a multi-million-dollar financing from the African Bank. But it has been a struggle. I mean, sometimes I run so low on money, I might not have 100,000 naira anywhere. And I will run into somebody who needs 70,000 very badly. And I will look at myself, look at the person, and I have only 100,000 left on me, and I will give the person 70,000. And in a miraculous way, God just has a way of making something happen, and a million naira comes from somewhere. And this is a fair routine in my life. So, what I called Dr. Lama, because the Afro-Exim Bank has put together a fund for industrial parks. A fund for industrial parks with the federal government. And I was talking to him about it. He said to me, look, I hope this is not going to be like the other ventures. I said, what do you mean? He said, you see, many big businesses that you were supported as a person to start, you allow somebody else to take the business and go away. I laughed because I had to write a book on that subject. When in 2009, somebody all of you know very well, who's often confused with me because we look alike sort of, Ben Murray Bruce, Senator Ben Murray Bruce, came to my house in 2009. I just built this house in Ikoyi, and he came and said, thank God you have done one thing for yourself. That I've always meant to ask you, why do you hate money? I said, who said I hate money? Then recruits began to point people he believes became multi-millionaires on my back. I said, but you live so modestly. I said to him then, money does not all things answer. That my primary driver is the building of institutions for posterity. As for me, my needs are limited, and I've already gone past meeting my needs, except paying school fees. The only thing that matters, making sure my children go to very good schools, have a decent room over their head, and eat. Once that can happen, I'm okay. I then thought I was kind of a strange person. But imagine this, to see how, in spite of that culture, God always comes to do his deed. There was a time in the course of my life when I was paying school fees for children to the tune of $250,000 a year. Now, I always ask myself in Thanksgiving, how many people in this world earn $250,000 a year in America? If you earn that much money, you're considered upper middle class. And yet, I could manage to pay school fees to that tune every year. It meant that I was not any less than $500,000. If on school fees alone, I could spend as much as $250,000. And yet, I was a man who did not like money. It's about what is important in life. You focus and do it, and you do it as service to society. And I can say to you here, without any fear of contradiction, that nobody has ever offered me a bribe because the way it is, because I have never accepted any such thing. And yet I was able to earn enough to pay that kind of school fees for years. Does it mean I don't get into very difficult moments? I just told you that there are times I can't find 100,000 naira. I'm that broke. And then somebody walks up to me, and I realize that person needs it more than I need it. And I look like I have to pay. The virtue of generosity will get you very far, because I sit on my own and I don't know what motivates them. People lobby to get on the boards of big companies, do all kinds of things. I don't want people to trouble me. I'm sitting one on my own. They call me. I say, yes, somebody I've never met before, but he sat in my class in Lagos Business School like 15 years before. He said, Deloitte wants to appoint one person from West Africa to his board. Deloitte is currently the #1 professional services firm in the world. Bigger than KPMG, bigger than Pricewaterhouse, bigger, the club there. The Big Four. And I'm on their board. I didn't know what happened. I was just sitting. I was saying, I don't want this one. I want. And I become one of only 2 people on their board in Africa. So, I want to say to you, nothing that belongs to you will run away from you because you have not chosen to do the politics. You will sit there and it will work to you. I'll begin to close by just mentioning a couple of those companies that the Lama was referring to. Many of you may not know this, but I was central to how Nigeria got on the internet. Sounds kind of strange. Many years ago, I was teaching a class in the Lagos Business School. Actually, 1994 to be precise. I had just come back from a conference in Gambia, and I saw small African countries that were giving me their email address. Nigeria had no email address. So I challenged the class that I was teaching. Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? They said, Nitel is a problem. After the class, one of the people in that class came to me, a guy called Chima Onyekore. He said, I would like to do this, but if I go forward, nobody will take me seriously. But if you come forward, you will take me seriously. And so Chima and I got together, created a company called LinkServe. LinkServe became Nigeria's first ISP and put Nigeria on the internet. Now, how many gentleman was saying what he was saying is that Capital Alliance funded the upswing of himself. It turned out Chima had ethical challenges and tried to use my name in a very incredible way. We had a meeting of the board, Ola Diola, Dick Kramer, all of these people. And Chima confessed there that he obtained my signature under false pretenses, but that he was going to use it to stop that money. I immediately resigned from the company. I don't care what is lost in terms of money if my name is involved and it's at risk. So, okay, and I saw that process. There is a newspaper that is now considered one of the best newspapers published in Nigeria. It's called Business Day. Business Day was created because a young editor of Vanguard was promoted out of the editorial page, a job. James Frank Aibo. I was looking at what next to do. I was going to set up a small printing press. And I said, we need printing press. You with your brain, you're going to be printing the lighter paper. And I suggested the idea of a daily business newspaper. Everybody laughed and said it would not work. For months, weeks, in my living room, in my office at LBS, we were working on this today. Business Day, one of the great newspapers of this country. It was created. It tells the same story with Platinum Bank. It tells the same story with something called Socket Works that introduced the e-passport in Nigeria. All of those were being applied in this way. But if I saw anything that looked on two words, I walked away. That's why Koke Lema is very anxious that this project, integrated publicity that I'm trying to build, and it's not that I should go and do it again and say somebody was behaving badly and walk away from it. I said, this one doesn't have any somebody. This is really me. This is my retirement legacy project. It's a challenge, it's hard. As I said, I can run out of money completely. But one day, as these miracles happen, that $350 million required will come. And tomorrow this will rise. But this kind of enterprise, an agri-industrial town, never been done in this part of the world, was made possible because of the governance, because of the capacity. This is what character does, and I wish all of you good character. Thank you.
This is awesome, beautiful to say the least. If someone wasn't seated there, I'm sure we learned so many things, values, characters, and all that. So, but do we have questions for Prof? Okay, I can see one hand. If you have questions, can you raise your hand, please? I can only see, okay, 2. 3. Sorry, DJ, do we have a second microphone? Okay, can we pass it down so that we don't have? Okay, please, if you have a question, just walk forward. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I know you are not shy. Loyola College, we are always the best. So let's start with you. Your name, your class, and your question.
My name is Utomi Stephen from S60. My question is that I want to ask about the year you met the Vice President, Alex Ekwueme. That's my question.
1983.
My name is Akita Yatimari. My question is, your religious background. Do not talk about that.
I want to ask, you said about the owner of Apple, you said you mentioned some period before he died, but you did not disclose it.
Okay, you are listening. Do you have any question? Yeah, just come forward. We want to take all the questions so that Paul can just answer everything at the same time. So if you have questions, please come around.
My name is Margaret Obraku. I want to ask that how can one develop a link on the internet?
How can one?
Develop a link or create a link on the internet.
LinkedIn. Okay. That's it.
Create
Create a link on LinkedIn.
Eh?
LinkedIn.
No, not LinkedIn.
Just to
How to create a website?
website, yes.
Or something like that. Okay. Thank you very much. Any other question? Any other question? Okay, so while you are thinking about the other questions, I'll allow Prof to answer. Well, even the website, even me, I can answer you, but I'll allow Prof to answer. Okay.
Well, thank you all. The first question was about what year I met the Vice President, Dr. Alex Ekweme. That year was 1983. I returned to Nigeria in November of 1982 after I finished work on my PhD. And I met him early in 1983, and later that same 1983, I joined the government of the day. Next question was about my religious background. I think this is a very powerful, very important question, because faith can play a very significant role in how you conduct yourself. Your formation can come significantly through faith. Incidentally, my class produced the first Catholic priest out of Loyola College, Father Utomi, here in Ibadan. The irony was that in class I was the one who wanted to be a priest, not Utomi. But vocation is vocation. He was called and became a priest, and I did not become a priest. But I still remain a truly committed Catholic. Because I have to leave Lagos as early as 6 a.m. this morning, I have not gone to Mass today, but I go to Mass every day. That's how my day starts, with Mass. When we were in Loyola College here, the rule was no Mass, no school. If you were caught dodging Mass, you would spend the year in Salu. I don't know if you remember. Salu was punishment. That was the works person, Alaji Salu. So you were sent to go and carry blocks with Alaji Salu. That's why they were building this block of glass here. That's to go to Salu for not attending Mass in any given day. So that's not the big new church, but that is a hall now, the old church, the chapel. It's still a chapel for the school. Oh, really? Okay, I thought when you moved to the new church, I abandoned it. The chapel. Significantly affected my life. There was a remarkable thing that happened 2 days ago. I think Finish Friday. I think 2 days ago on Wednesday, I think it was. That some of you may not be reading and might not know. But since last Sunday, the Vanguard newspapers has been publishing excerpts from my new book titled Why Not? From last Sunday. Every day since Monday, two pages of the Vanguard are dedicated to extracts from a new book. And in the one that was published, I believe on Wednesday, that was Tuesday, I talked about my favorite prayer, praying the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Now, that morning at Mass, every morning if I'm in Lagos, that Mass at Our Lady of Perpetual Help in Victoria Island. During communion that morning, my favorite prayer was the communion song. Let me be an instrument of your peace. It's very sung as a solo. And I'm just an emotional wreck once that starts. I literally begin to tear. And then I came out of Mass and I picked up a couple of Vanguard in my car, and they published exactly the page in which I had that prayer, and I talked about its effect on my decision making. So yes, faith matters a great deal to me. I'm active in, even though I'm a committed Catholic, but I'm active in non-denominational Christian ministries. I'm the National Director of the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International. And so yes, faith matters. Next question was about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, was a multi-billionaire and was stricken by cancer in his late 40s and was dying. And he said on his deathbed, if you could trade all the money for just a few more years, if you could trade all the money for just a few more years. And those of you who are active on the internet will know the pranksters. They showed a photograph of his widow now, wife, and her new boyfriend on his yacht. A few weeks ago on the internet, it was all over the place. To say, no good, the man has died, has gone, the wife is enjoying herself with the money he left behind. When health is lost, something is lost. The last question was a link on the internet. Today, everything is a link on the internet. Incidentally, this year, in fact, a month ago, was the 30th anniversary of the founding of the internet. And the man who created the internet visited Nigeria, and I was at dinner with him. They decided to have, I think, what was some kind of journey plan. It was to visit, start from where he was as a British government official, British scientist. He was in Switzerland when he wanted to communicate some things to the UK, and this system was literally developed from that. So he had to go to a couple of places, and Nigeria was the terminal point of his visit to mark 30 years of the internet. And we had dinner at the Bush, Deputy Commissioner says in Lagos. Internet is simply computers communicating with each other. That's all it is. And you can do that in so many ways. This thing is a computer, more powerful than the big computers of the 1960s and even 80s. This thing that I'm holding here. Your WhatsApp is a link on the internet, but you can create a page of your own, your website on the internet. And there are people who can help you develop websites that are all over the place doing that. So there are many ways that you can have links on the internet, but your website can be developed for you. There are many people who can do it privately, but there are professionals who can help you do more sophisticated web designs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have more questions? That's all? Okay, while Prof was giving the talk, we had another important personality walk into our midst. Mrs. Oyedamuji is the principal for Loyola Junior School. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for coming along. So, we read it all. He told us the history, growing up, being part of Loyola. One of the things I think you should always remember is the fact that it's what he said. He mentioned it that wherever you want to be, you have to see the end and then dream of how you can get to the end. Of course, whatever, there's a popular saying, I think it's one of Napoleon Hill that said, whatever a man can conceive and believe, then he can achieve those things. So whatever you can think about, whatever you can dream about, you can achieve them. Castle, people will say castles are not built in the air, but I think you have to build castles in the air. You have to build in your mind before you bring them to reality. So, on that note, I want to thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. It's been an awesome. We have a small topic for you. So, before the principals will give us the closing remarks. But before we proceed to that, you help us to give Prof a little token that it's a local gift, very indigenous to the background. We intentionally. And it's branded in the Loyola. So it was also, it makes us the drum, and we have to drum. Maybe we'll sing the anthem.
It don't sound like music.
On behalf of the mid-7 set, we are presenting this talking drum to Professor Pat Utomi. In the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
So we need to hear the sound of the only
That's me. You know, when we were here, we had the Abekoya riot in Badon in 1968. And this is the sound of rioting.